I've saved the best for last because this is Okinawa, probably my favourite place to visit in all of Japan. The food here is not just delicious, but it's also one of the most unique cuisines in the world.
This time, I get into one of the world's most intriguing cuisines, with a feast at an Okinawan izakaya.
This here is the reason why Okinawa is one of my favourite places to eat.
I try to uncover Okinawa's secret to longevity.
That just looks awful. How well went in Rome.
I experience a delicacy that's a little on the nose.
Kind of like halfway between miso and blue cheese.
And I cook for Japan's oldest party animal.
You may be wondering why I'm cruising around in this big boat of a Chevy Impala. There's a very good reason for that. Okinawan cuisine is a real melting pot of different cultures. For thousands of years it was a separate kingdom, and then for the last few centuries different trade and political affiliations have brought Okinawan cuisine into something that is incredibly unique. In more recent times it's that American influence that really has put its stamp on the way people eat here today.
That American influence is all too obvious on the wet drive through the Okinawan capital, Naha. But the place I'm about to visit is Okinawan through and through.
Whenever you come to a new place and you want to really know what makes it tick, your first stop should always be the local market. It's kind of a window into a culture, whether it's food or otherwise. And here in Okinawa, maybe to start with, shikwasa, kind of a indigenous citrus to this area, really tart, goes well with just about anything. This here is aomori, a type of domestic vodka, I guess you'd call it. There's chilies soaking in there. This is actually used not to drink, but as a seasoning over noodles or something. Musical instruments here made from snake skin. And this stuff here, look at this. Spam. It's a hangover from the first military occupation of Okinawa, and it came from US Army rations. You can see here it's been made into sushi, and spam is a huge part of Okinawan food. This is kokto, or black sugar. It's an Okinawan speciality, and it's these big blocks of a really thick and molassesy sugar. Delicious stuff. And these here, sata andagi, type of donut made from either plain or with black sugar or covered in coconut here as well. I've never seen that before. I'll have a look at these dried sea snakes. They're all around the waters here in Okinawa. So if you want a pretty unique soup, you can get into one of those. Ooh.
Deep inside the markets is the seafood section, and the vibrant colours of these fish tell us we're in the tropics, just in case the shirt didn't give it away. But there's something Okinawans love even more than seafood and loud shirts.
Pork is absolutely central to Okinawan cuisine, and it may be a bit shocking to look at something like this, but from the face to the trotters, not a drop of the pig is wasted. Here we've got pork tongue, the cartilage from the ear, which is actually really delicious and quite crunchy, the fat from the face, some sausages here. Every single piece of the pig is used and nothing goes to waste.
Kin Township, on the largest of Okinawa's hundreds of islands, is a crumbling reminder of the days and nights when US military personnel spent their soldiers' wages on hard liquor, fast women, and a taste of home. And of course, many of those American GIs were themselves from several different cultures.
Here in Okinawa, there's a bit of a cottage industry and military surplus, everything from shirts through to rations. If you go back 40 or 50 years in the history of Okinawan cuisine, this chili with beans or something very similar to it changed the face of how the people in Okinawa eat forever.
King Tacos is a Kin Town success story. Long gone are the days when taco rice was made from army surplus taco seasoning. But while most of the bars and restaurants here have closed down, the King thrives, with locals, soldiers from the American base, and tourists alike keeping the kitchen pumping.
And this is it, taco rice, the ultimate fusion of Mexican, American and Japanese cuisines. Fusion gets a bad name quite often, I reckon that's when people try and force it. This I don't see so much as an innovation, but almost an inevitability. You've got taco seasoning, cheese, and then put that all together with Japanese rice. You almost can't help but end up with something like this. And of course, after 40 or so years of history, it's only going to stay around if it tastes good too. Taco rice has to be one of my favourite foods of all time, and I'm not talking just Okinawan foods, but all foods. So I'm going to show you how to make my version. We start with the taco seasoning, which all those years ago would have come in a pack from the US, but we make our own.
It's simply a mix of paprika, chili powder, cumin, dried oregano, pepper, garlic powder, and a bit of salt.
Don't be afraid of using dried herbs because they really do have their place. People usually think that fresh herbs are better, and in some cases they are, but the flavour of dried and fresh herbs is so different, they have different applications. This is definitely a case where you should be using dried. Mix that all together, and that's our taco seasoning. We'll just start to brown the beef off. As the beef's starting to brown, we can add in our taco seasoning, or our spice mix if you don't want to call it taco seasoning. That's what it is really. Keep mixing that through. The beef's nice and browned and lovely and fragrant. But I think when you're using dry spices to get the full flavour out of them, you can't just pan fry something like this. You've really got to stew it for a little while to draw out all those flavours. So I've got some dashi stock. Just add that in. A touch of soy sauce as well for an extra hit of umami, a bit of salt too. And then just some sugar. Give that a stir and then pop on a drop lid. Turn the heat down a little bit, let that simmer for about 10-15 minutes. I'm going to make a really simple salsa to go on top of our taco rice. And I'll start with some lovely sweet tomatoes from the area here. They're really great. So sweet, they're almost like candy in a way. Into the cherry tomatoes, just some red onion, really finely sliced. Put those together. Just a sprinkle of salt on those as well. Secret ingredient's the local awamori, the rice alcohol, with some chili infused in it. It's got a wonderful aroma. It really is one of my favourite ingredients. You could use a chili vodka or even maybe some chili vinegar, but this awamori is something special. Mix that all together and put it aside for 10 minutes. Next, some lettuce. I'm using iceberg lettuce, such an underrated vegetable, but when you've got soft white rice and crunchy green lettuce, the texture combination is really something. That's lovely and fragrant. You get a touch more flavour out of this just by letting that sit and cool down and then reheating it again. But I think we're ready to go anyway. And start to put this together. Here's a bit more American influence. Bright yellow American cheese. On top of that, some lettuce for that crunchy contrast with the soft rice. And then just some of our fresh tomato salsa over the top. It's a really simple recipe, but one that I love and I cook all the time. To go with that, I'm going to use something a little bit unique. This is shimarakyo. It's a type of island onion, really. Just been lightly pickled in salt. Great crunch, great zest to it. And there it is, the Okinawan favourite, taco rice and shimarakyo.
Okinawa is one of those places that never stops surprising you. Just outside the capital Naha is a cave reaching deep into the rock. where locals and visitors store and age their bottles of awamori. Awamori is an ancient Okinawan alcohol that actually predates whiskey in Scotland by about 100 years. And as with most distilled alcohols, awamori just keeps getting better with age. So what often happens is parents put a bottle down when a baby is born.
There's more than 10,000 bottles in here. Have a look at this one. It's put down almost a decade ago, and it's got his picture here and his little foot. His foot's probably about this long now, and he's probably halfway through his schooling. In a decade or so, he'll be back here for his first drink.
Aging awamori in caves is an ancient practice in Okinawa, but in the early days of the US occupation, this particular cave was used by the GIs as an underground bar. More recently, the locals have reclaimed it, and with it, a part of their culture.
Temperature in here is about 17 or 18 degrees, which is a little too warm for wine, but it's perfect for awamori. So my bottle goes in here, and I'll see him in about 2 decades. Awamori is not the only thing they keep down here. This is tofu. It's a type of aged tofu that's a specialty of Okinawa. It's packed up with salt and koju mold and then left in barrels, usually for about 3 months. But this one is kept down here for a year. It's got a wonderful creamy texture, and the flavour is just extraordinary. It's packed with umami, kind of like halfway between miso and blue cheese. So if you like either of those things, this is perfect for you. You could use this in pasta stirred through, eaten just as it is, or even spread on top of a little bit of garlic bread. It's fantastic stuff.
The reason I love Okinawa so much is because it's a culture that's always evolving. For centuries they've been influenced by so many other countries, and for the locals here, that's just all part of being Okinawan. It's in their music, their language, their attitude, and of course, in their food.
This here is the reason why Okinawa is one of my favourite places to eat. Not only is the food delicious, but it also represents thousands of years of culture all coming together on a plate or on a table. To start here, we've got fu champuru, wheat gluten, fried with a bit of spam and a few other vegetables here. This is mimiga from the famous agu pork, Okinawa's most famous breed of pork, and this is the pig's ear. Very lightly salted and pickled with a great crunch in the cartilage. And of course, my favourite, pork belly. This has got a lot of Chinese influence, as you can see just by looking at it. Slow simmered pork in awamori. This is something that I really love. It's called umibudo, which directly translates as sea grapes. These little kind of caviar-like strands are dipped into a slightly vinegary sauce, and when you eat them, they just pop in your mouth like tiny grapes or caviar. This stuff over here may look like a pudding, even right up close it does, but it's actually peanut tofu, and it's savoury. The sauce around it, it looks like a caramel or something, but it's actually a mixture of soy sauce, mirin and sake with this sticky tofu made from pounded peanuts. A really lovely flavour. Don't get fooled into thinking that's a dessert. The desserts themselves, however, are a whole different story. This is a sata andagi, made from the local black sugar. It's a type of Okinawan donut, and they really are quite wonderful.
They're great fun to make and pretty simple. Just sift plain flour with pancake mix, then to 3 eggs, add baking powder, a touch of milk, and black or brown sugar. Then bring in the flour mix and combine to a soft but resistant consistency. After resting, mould the mix into balls and deep fry in vegetable oil.
Nice crispy crunch on the outside and that doughy kind of cakey centre. And that lovely mellow and rich flavour of the black sugar. It's kind of like molasses. This is something that's really quite interesting. It kind of looks like your tongue when you had too many grape lollies as a kid. But it's actually a purple potato dumpling. Okinawa is famous for its purple potatoes. They're a lot like sweet potatoes, but bright purple in colour.
This is even easier to make than the donuts. And if you can't get the purple potatoes, then you can use sweet potatoes or even banana. But you can buy purple potato dried into flakes, which you mix with glutinous rice flour and sugar. Then add water and knead into a smooth, soft dough. Mould the mochi onto a fresh shell ginger leaf, fold into a parcel and steam for 15 to 20 minutes.
It's really lovely. The dough itself is all about the texture. The purple potato gives great sweetness and flavour and colour. And then the aroma is all about that leaf. That's a fantastic dessert.
Okinawa is known for its longevity. There's more people that live here over the age of 100 years old than anywhere else in Japan. Up ahead here is Izena Island, and there's a community there that reckons that their secret to longevity is living an active lifestyle and, of course, what they eat.
The first thing you notice as you explore this peaceful little island is the age of the locals. There are very few young people and it's a bit like a retirement village. Except these old folk don't seem very retiring.
Everybody here is about 88, 89, 90 years old, and they're out here playing this game every day. It's quite extraordinary to see. 島の生活はいつもこれみたいですか？
いや、農業もするし、
仕事もす
るし。
長生きの秘密は何ですか？
これは何かな、豚肉ということも聞いていますけれど。
あ、そう。
Now, the idea of eating pork giving you a long life is something I can definitely get behind. But in the end, I suspect it's actually all about the Okinawan attitude.
Happy. Happy.
You might expect these old folk to be dependent on the mainland or young Okinawans for their food, but no. Working is a normal part of life here, no matter what your age. And that means working both the land and the sea.
Here on my right is actually a seaweed farm. It's just coming out of season now, but this is called ausa, or asa in the local dialect. It's sometimes used as tempura or just mixed with a dipping sauce. Really interesting, but we're looking for something that's just coming into season right now that I've never tried before.
My guide is 85-year-old Fumiko Higa, and every day she comes here to play in the sea, as she describes it.
Wow. That just looks awful. Oh, when in Rome. Ooh, okay.
Okay.
Well, here's a big one. すごい. Whoa. Whoa, okay.
Okay.
They really are kind of gruesome looking things. It's called awamochi in Japanese, but homie here on the island. Isho awamochi. Which kind of means like a dumpling of millet, and it's got that kind of a dumpling feel to it. It's a sea slug really, part of that family. And they're found around Okinawa, but here on this island is the only place they actually eat them. Time will tell whether they got the right idea or not. Arigato.
And now a quick visit to the family's organic farm to harvest for tonight's Okinawan feast.
We're here collecting probably what's the most famous Okinawan food. It's this, goya, or as we know in English, bitter gourd. It's a very bitter kind of almost cucumbery or turnipy kind of thing. It's hard to describe. Kids don't really like them, but I love them. And
Arigatou gozaimasu. I think we better get cooking.
I've come to the Izena Community Centre with Fumiko and a couple of her friends to cook a meal for the local gateball team after they've finished their evening game.
Got a few different dishes on the go today. There are sea slugs. They're going to be stir-fried with this, and then the Okinawan favourite, goya champuru.
The first thing is to boil the sea slugs for 30 minutes, to tenderise and then mix with garlic chives and miso paste for a dish which is simply a garlic and sea slug stir-fry.
Well, I didn't think I would be, but I'm actually kind of getting excited to try it. It's actually got a really nice smell coming off it. Slightly seafoody, quite obviously, but the miso, as it's being cooked, it's releasing its aroma. The garlic smells lovely as well. It's actually, just by the smell of it, by the aroma of it, it's a very familiar dish. Reminds me of something my grandma would make.
The next dish is an Okinawan classic, goya champuru using that bitter gourd.
So the white on the inside here can be a bit bitter, so Higa-san said we've got to take out more of the white from around in the inside and it can remove the bitterness. There's a bit of an island rivalry going on as well because they reckon that the tofu from Izena is firmer, it doesn't have so much liquid in it, so it's perfect for goya champuru, whereas the tofu that you get from Naha on the main island, it's a bit too soft, a bit too watery, so it doesn't make a good champuru. And of course one of the Okinawan favourite ingredients, spam. You don't think of this as being a food that people eat in any kind of gourmet context or even in any kind of rural context, but this has just become such an important part of Okinawan cuisine. Watashi? Ba-chan, onegaishimasu. I'm a bit concerned trying to cook something in the presence of Higa-san, but... Salmon tofu. Possibly the secret to everlasting life. Salt going in. Touch of soy sauce. Some bonito flakes going in. Finally some eggs. Mazeru. Turn the heat up a touch, mix the eggs in, and the heat goes off. And just let it all cook through. Higa-san, arigatou gozaimasu. Minasan, arigatou gozaimasu. Makasuiteru. We talk a lot about what's the secret to a long life. Is it the goya? Is it eating lots of pork? Is it living an active lifestyle? But you meet all these people and you start to think that maybe the secret to living a long life is just to love it so much you never want to leave. Omatase shimashita. Kanpai. Kanpai.
And now before I go any further, I have to taste that iso awamochi. And with that, the party kicks off. And even though I'm the new kid in town, I quickly feel right at home with my new friends. So this is it. The end of my big adventure through the entire nation of Japan. And two things stand out for me. The first is the almost infinite diversity of Japanese cuisine. And the other is, of course, the people. This country is full of warm, generous, creative, skillful individuals who make every food experience a special memory.
Look at this guy.
Hi, dozo.
Wow.
Nice to meet you.
How do you make a happy cow?
Good heart.
She's the funniest, but she doesn't want to talk to us today.
Hi, dozo.
Come on, come on. Yay! 2 more. I'm quite proud of that. Now they're even on Facebook. I didn't do a very good job with that. Has to be eaten in one mouthful.
This is listening.
The funny thing about Japan that you can find Zen and philosophy in almost everything.
Delicious.
Sorry.
This is really wonderful. Why the cow soup?
It's freezing out here.
Spine of an eel. Who would have thought so surprisingly toasty? Tell you what, I'm going to be going home with a big smile on my face tonight.